The morning my private pool turned neon. The HOA president walked through my side gate like she owned the deed, and 6 ladies in matching caps lined up behind her with the confidence of people who never hear the word no. Community wellness class, Cheryl said, visor tilted, clipboard sharp, cash box gleaming. And I said, as calmly as a man holding coffee can say it, "This is my yard, not the rec center." Then I hit the hidden switch under the coping and put 911 on speaker because receipts beat rage every single time. 3 breaths later, a harmless tracer dye kissed the sunscreen on every arm and shoulder. The water glowed electric teal. Neighbors leaned over fences with their phones, and Cheryl's private enterprise suddenly looked like a crime scene at a pool party. She shoved me. I slipped. I went in silence, swallowed me just long enough to hear my heartbeat and the color of my own decision. Then I surfaced into sirens and 100 camera lenses, teal dripping from my nose, while that little voice that's followed me my whole life, the one that says, "Sit down, be small," finally lost its grip. Look, I wasn't trying to be a hero. I was a guy who moved to Cypress Ridge with his wife Maya because we wanted quiet, a blue rectangle of sky. We could swim in a grill, a few maples, a place where the future didn't feel like a moving target. The notices started week 1. Mailbox color off-palette grass, a whisper too tall. Wind chimes exceeding auditory guidelines. And I said the thing people say when they're trying to believe in institutions. Rules keep things pretty right. You know what I mean? But then one morning I woke to strangers doing laps in my pool while Cheryl counted bills. Like a toll collector. The deputy shrugged it off as civil, and a fake inspector tried to cite my pool for a height variance that isn't a thing. That's when a neighbor named Keegan Grayhair, ex-county solicitor, watering petunias like nothing in the world can rush him, said 5 words that changed everything. Paper beats panic date time, and handed me a Ziploc and a chain of custody form with my name already penciled in. I started wiring sensors to gates, tucking cameras into oleanders, building a steel slider that closed with a music of finality kind of clank. Not to play war, but to keep boundaries from becoming suggestions. And when Cheryl slipped spa gift cards under my door with a pre-signed community hours waiver and a sweet little threat for our insurance, I smiled at the red recording light and said, "Ugly looks good on video," because yeah, that happened. The thumbtacks across my driveway went into a mason jar, labeled Exhibit B. Friendship, the non-emergency line, got a note about bright teal water if things got weird, and in the garage we tested the dye like responsible nerds. UV flashlight timer, eye wash bottle, on standby, safety card, by the gate masks in a bin. Because if you're going to stand up to the person who polices everyone else, you'd better be more careful than they've ever been. Then the twist landed, the kind you feel in your stomach before your brain can say the word. A mail truck parked on our corner 3 days in a row without delivering a thing. Sunglasses on a cloudy day, logo magnet swapped behind the rec center for a landscaping sign, and my camera caught all of it. I followed the tape to the HOA treasurer. Ron I's red kitchen table, a crime drama, bank statements, invoices, emails, checks, a map with properties marked like bite marks, and he slid a recorder across to me. Cheryl's voice laid out like she was reading receipts at a podium. Fake line, items, inflated, jobs, fines, stacked until families moved out. Cheap shell companies ready to scoop the lots. A developer waiting with both hands open. She isn't guarding standards, he said, voice low. She's farming the neighborhood, and I won't lie, that sentence made my hands shake. Maya listened, one hand on her belly, because yeah, we had more at stake than pride. And she asked the hardest question. Do we leave? And for a minute, I saw it a clean exit. New street, no fights. Then I looked at the jar of thumbtacks, and the neighbors who couldn't afford to push back, and the kid we hadn't met yet. And I said what I knew was true, even if I didn't like hearing myself say it. If we walk, the next family gets harvested. Keegan drew the path like a coach calling a late-game drive. Federal, not local public corruption unit chain of custody on everything Ron cooperating with counsel. 3 mirrored drives, 1 off-site, 1 to the state, 1 sealed for the feds. And suddenly, I wasn't the guy with a die button and a grudge, I was a witness with a file. The teal sting wasn't the win, it was the doorstop, the thing that wedged the story open long enough for sunlight to do what sunlight does. We set the special meeting at the elementary school cafeteria, the room that always smells like crayons and French fries because childhood leaves a scent on a building. Mrs. Delgado, retired teacher backbone made of chalk dust and patience, called us to order, and when the projector lit the wall, that same impossible teal people didn't gasp so much as lean forward and remember their own doubts. I told it plain. Unauthorized commercial use of private property marked cash timestamps, chain of custody independent verification. Then I stepped back, because it couldn't just be my voice. It had to be ours. And Ron took the mic with hands that trembled, and a voice that didn't. He read the numbers, the fake pool wellness initiative, 67 grand, and change diverted, no contractors, no upgrades, just money, moving like water in dark pipes to Cheryl's LLCs. A loyalist stood and called it. Fabricated, Tegan. Lifted a thick folder with stamps and said slower than thunder. Everything here survived a forensic audit and a DA review. Would you like your copy? And I swear you could hear the damn crack. Right then. Not a cheer, not a riot, just the sound of a room changing its mind. Mrs. Delgado called the vote. Remove Cheryl and Bert from all HOA positions, pending criminal process. Hands went up like people remembering they still had them. 3 stayed down because stories die slow. And then the deputies from the back stepped forward. Alvarez read new charges. Bert reached for the projector and learned bracelets fit him. Cheryl stared at her teal photo, like the language of the room had shifted without her. Justice didn't strut, it exhaled. That night, neighbors who'd stopped waving brought brownies and apology casseroles. A teenager asked if we'd teach swim lessons with permission. Maya and I sat by the water that looked like water again. The gate felt like a boundary again, and my shoulders lowered a half-inch, like they were allowed to live on my body again. A push alert chirped. Plea deal, cooperation. The machine, grinding the way it's supposed to when someone finally stops jamming the gears. And Keegan paper plate plastic fork said paper beats panic like a benediction. Here's the part where I'm supposed to wrap it in a bow. But life isn't a bow, it's a knot. You keep loosening. So I'll say it like this. I kept the cameras, I kept the logs, I kept the habit of labeling jars. Exhibit whatever. But I let go of the idea that every shadow in my yard is a threat, because guards are useful and tension is a tax. And I want my kid to grow up in a house where the line between strength and fear isn't blurry. Was I right? Did I go too far? Not far enough. Did I humiliate a bully or become one with a better camera angle? I can live with the argument because the truth is simple and complicated at the same time. We didn't harm anyone. We didn't trap anyone. We turned on the lights and watched a script fall apart. And sometimes that's the only way a neighborhood remembers what the word community actually means. So tell me, where's your line? Have you seen power dressed up as standards? Have you had to collect receipts because nobody would listen to your voice until the proof glowed on a wall? Drop your story, your verdict, your pushback. I can take it. Hit subscribe if you want more real fights that end with better neighbors instead of better bullies tap. Like if you think receipts matter more than rage, and if you've ever been underestimated. Until the day you finally stood up and said, "Not today. Yeah, you. I see you."